Hi, I'm Jamie, your host for season 2 of the Not Going to Uni podcast, where we talk all things emerging talent and alternative routes to university. In today's episode, we talk to Erin, a Data Analyst Degree Apprentice at Jaguar Land Rover. Hi, Erin. Welcome to the NGTU podcast. How are you?
Hi, good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thanks. Really well. Could you start us off with a brief introduction to yourself for our audience, please?
Yeah, so hi, my name is Erin. I'm a third year Data Analytics Degree Apprentice, currently working at Jaguar Land Rover.
Amazing. Thanks, Erin, and great to have you on for today's episode. To start us off then, can you give us a brief overview of your journey to date and what you're currently working on?
Yeah, so going back to 2019, that was when I did my GCSEs. I didn't really know too much about degree apprenticeships. It wasn't until I started year 12 and I've got an older brother who was doing a civil engineering degree apprenticeship. So when I started year 12, he started the first year of his degree apprenticeship. So I almost got that first-hand insight to see what it was like, balancing a full-time job, balancing a university degree, and I could just sort of ask him all my questions and ask away, what does this actually mean? What is a degree apprenticeship? So it's when I then got into year 13, I started to think, actually, I think this is what I would like to do rather than go to university full time. So I applied for a few different data analytics degree apprenticeships and ended up going to Jaguar Land Rover. So I started there in September 2021 now. I've been in 5 teams so far, and I've recently, as about 4 weeks ago, joined the intelligent automation team working as a business analyst.
Amazing. Thanks, Erin. That's a really great insight. And I guess to dive into that, internal motivation from your family side of obviously having that first-hand experience of starting a degree apprenticeship. I mean, other than obviously your brother's advice, was degree apprenticeships quite new to you? Were you kind of aware of them before your brother started? Like, what was that process like?
Completely new to me. It was never an option that I even knew existed. And even when I did hear of apprenticeships, I think I had the complete wrong idea as to what they were. So if I didn't have my brother to watch him go through that, I definitely wouldn't have been here today. So I think that's why myself and not going to uni as well are such big advocates for promoting apprenticeships, because there are so many people out there where it could be their pathway, but you just don't know it's an option yet if you're not told about it.
Absolutely. And it's one that's still quite new, isn't it, within schools, kind of pushing that out. And I think now it's becoming more of a common theme within schools, particularly when applying for obviously university for UCAS and doing personal statements, that now I think they have allocated that time for applying to alternative routes to university. And obviously where apprenticeships come in, such as yours, it's a great way to get them out there. I mean, to dive into data analytics then, and obviously that's what you're doing now day to day, was that something that you kind of always knew that you wanted to get into? Like, where did you hear about data analytics? I think it's quite a broad term in terms of the technology space, but I guess to give our audience a bit of an idea as to where that motivation came from, and what it's like working within the space.
Kind of half and half, to be honest. So I always knew that I loved maths. That was always my favourite subject at school. So when I did my A levels, I did maths, further maths, and English. And I think my choices alone tell you that I wasn't 100% on what I wanted to do. But I love lab maths and I love further maths, but I think I was missing the meaningfulness behind it. So I loved to do all the exam questions and things, but it felt a bit pointless to an extent, that it's a theoretical question, it doesn't actually apply to anything. And I knew that you also couldn't have a job that was just mathematician that just answered maths questions all the time. So I knew maths was the industry, but then wasn't too sure of what the job titles were that existed. So when I started looking into degree apprenticeships, I found the Digital and Technology Solutions. So that's the name of my degree apprenticeship through University of Warwick, and they have a data analytics pathway. So it kind of started by thinking, oh, well, this sounds the most maths based, and then researching into that and thinking, okay, it's a bit of coding, it's a bit of data science, a bit of data visualization, and then really dive into, well, what does that mean and how does that apply to what I think it is in my head.
And was it always, once you knew degree apprenticeship existed, particularly in that space, was it kind of a dead cert that you were going to end up, hopefully, obviously, interviewing process goes well and you get an offer or offers on the table? Like, was that always going to be your choice? Did you still have your university offers to hand?
I still applied through UCAS. I felt like it was a bit of a gamble. I'd heard how hard degree apprenticeship processes can be, and I didn't want to risk having to take a gap year. It was on my mind anyway, but then COVID happened, so it kind of was taken out of the equation. But no, I still applied for UCAS. I applied for a maths degree at all 5 of the universities, but I knew that degree apprenticeships was my number one option. That was what I wanted to do.
And were your school quite supportive of that decision from you to go down that route?
Yeah, I had some teachers that were really supportive of it. I think more it kind of took a bit more explaining to understand. For context, I'm a twin and my twin applied to Oxford. So I think it was almost the assumption that we were both going to go and apply to Oxford or Cambridge. So I think it was a bit of a controversial decision when it first came out. I actually wasn't going to go to full-time university at all. But when you actually educate people on, well, I'm still going to a Russell Group uni, my degree is from University of Warwick, I'm working for Jaguar Land Rover at the same time. I think it's helped people understand actually it's not a secondary option to university, it's a completely equal option that should be considered side by side.
No, definitely, for sure. And I think it's definitely improving as time goes on. Obviously, degree apprenticeships are now more popular than ever. More companies are jumping on board and providing those. So I think the opportunities are only going to become increased as time goes on. To give our audience and parents, carers listening about data analytics, if they're not sure, obviously, what data analytics is, particularly day to day, like what does day to day look like for you at the moment? I know you've kind of made quite a few rotations and you're in a new team, so that day to day might look slightly different to what it did a couple of months ago, for example. But a general overview would be really, really great to see.
Yeah, so since I've joined in 2021, I've been in 5 teams. My first team was data-driven transformation, and then I worked in 2 different data engineering teams, data analytics, and just now I work in intelligent automation. So for the most part, most of those teams work in a way called agile. So this means you work in a 2-week time period. So I used to love that question day by day, because I know a lot of people say, oh, every day looks different, which is true, but not the most helpful when you're trying to be an apprentice and you're not sure what that means.
Yeah.
So we work in a 2-week time period. So at the start of the 2 weeks, you reflect on the previous fortnight, all the things you've got done, and you plan for the next fortnight. So that helps manage your time. When things crop up across a couple of weeks, you can say, well, actually, no, because I've agreed to get X, Y, Z done in the fortnight. So day by day, it's a lot more in my hands than I thought it would be. I kind of had the impression that it would be 9 o'clock, you're here talking to this person, and then you're doing this, and then you're doing that. It's a lot more independent. These are my tasks for the fortnight. Day to day, I manage that how I see fit. I have a catch up with my line manager, a catch up with my project manager, but my project work is down to me when I want to get that done.
Oh, that's great. And from day one in your apprenticeship, did you kind of, there's obviously lots of misconceptions around apprenticeships and the level of work that they do and the trust that they're given. Did you feel like you had that trust and the ability to do your best work from day one?
100% in every team that I've been in. But what I do think is worth noting is that I had it in my head I would join on day one, and then this is your project, this is the thing you're working on, which I thought was going to be very intimidating. But actually, when I joined, there was a whole cohort of graduates and apprentices, probably about 30 something of us all together. And we had a 6-week training program for the first 6 weeks. And I think that was the best way to ease us into it. So we learned about the basics of data analytics, data engineering, data science. And at the end of the 6 weeks, we all split off into different teams and different projects. So I was working in a team of 3. So we had a project manager, myself, and a graduate. And between the 3 of us, we delivered this whole project, which is still used today worldwide across the Jaguar Land Rover website.
And how does that make you feel, knowing that you've kind of had an input to a project like that is still used to this day?
Really rewarding, and that's one of the main things why I went to the degree apprenticeship. Going back to saying that I love maths as a subject, but I just couldn't help but find that something was missing because there was no real life link. The work wasn't going anywhere. The second that I finished my A levels, I remember thinking, well, I'm not going to need any of these topics ever again. So yeah. I hated that feeling of all your work feeling redundant or like it was for nothing. And that was what I sometimes felt with school and exams and that sort of educational system. Whereas now, even though I'm still doing full-time degree at university, I'm getting those modules and applying that in the workplace, or I'm learning something at work and then it comes up at uni. So that is like the last little jigsaw puzzle of my motivation that I needed to just help me link it all together.
And where, I guess, how, just to take a little bit of a rewind, in terms of when you were back at school and obviously going into a company like Jaguar Land Rover, it must have been kind of quite daunting. How did you find that transition from school going into the world of work? Was that one that you struggled with? Like, what was your experience of that?
Yeah, full transparency, I struggled a lot more than I thought, and I feel like I don't see this spoken about quite a lot. Now I absolutely love it, but I think I went into it with the wrong misconceptions. So I kind of had it in my head that I finished my A-levels, I got 3 A stars. I always loved the academic side of school. So I had it in my head, the university side, that will be fine, but it's the workplace I'm going to really struggle with, adapting to projects in the workplace. Whereas actually the support system that I had at work was great. We had the 6 weeks training program, get given buddies on every project that you go to, your project manager, your line manager. there is support at every single avenue, and no one expects you to know everything, which was what I wasn't aware of when I joined. But the university side, the way that the modules are delivered are so very different to what I was used to at school. So your whole school system from reception pretty much up until the age of 18 was turned on its head. So the way that I learn my modules at university is every 4, 5, 6 weeks, I go to University of Warwick, and Monday to Friday, 9 to 4, I just sit in lectures all day for the week. So that's about 30 hours of lectures in a week. For some people, that works great. But for me, I'm someone that really needs to sit with the information, process it, make some notes, and then carry on. So I really struggled with the transition on the academic side, whereas I found the transition a lot easier on the work side than I thought. So it was just a complete opposite to what I expected going into it.
And do you find your degree works really well and works in sync with what you're doing on the day-to-day? Because I think a lot of apprentices that I speak to struggle with the kind of, sometimes their degree doesn't specifically align with their day-to-day, and sometimes they go obviously off-site, whether that's 1 day a week, or if they do block learning obviously in a week or so every 2 months or whatever it might be. Like, do you find that degree works really well in sync with your day-to-day job, or is it more stuff that you're just building a foundation on within that kind of learning?
A bit of both. So my degree is called Digital Technology Solutions, and it's got 4 main pathways. So data analytics, cybersecurity, software engineering, and network engineering. So for the first 2 years, my whole cohort was together and we learned a bit of everything. So the data analytics module aligned a lot more better to me, but software engineering, it was brand new. I'd never done it before. So for the first 2 years, you learn everything. And then in years 3 and 4, and I've just started year 3 6 months ago, I do just data analytics modules. So I think this year I can see there's a much stronger link with what I'm doing. It's the same softwares that I use at work, the exact same things that I'm learning. But I would argue that I still had a lot of benefit from the first 2 years learning a bit of everything. Sometimes you're working on a project and actually I can give an insight on this because I learned that at university, even though it's not something that I should be learning at work.
Yeah, no, definitely. And to go into, I think what's not, well, it is spoken about a lot within apprentices, which is obviously balancing that workload and obviously managing your time efficiently. And the biggest one, I guess, within young people is having a social life still, which I think is a lot of people's concerns that are choosing an apprenticeship over a full-time role. So or a full-time degree, should I say. So what's been your experience with that, being a third year apprentice? You've obviously had a couple of years to kind of bake yourself into the role, kind of get used to the workload. Appreciate there might be busier times than others, but what's been your kind of general experience with that, particularly with the social side as well?
Yeah, I think this will probably be a long answer, but to summarize it quickly, I think the social side is very different if you go to university full time. For me, that was something that I wasn't really too interested in. So I still live at home, so I haven't moved away for university. I don't live with flatmates. I don't have the societies and that sort of classic university life. But for me, that isn't a bad thing because it isn't something that I was interested in. The first year, I'd say, was sort of my time to adapt, get my head around, okay, well, when am I going to be doing these assignments and how do I do them? So the way mine works is every Friday is my study day. So every Friday I'm out of office, and that's like my study period day to just get with my assignments. That works really well. Obviously, there's periods where, you are working some evenings and working some weekends to get your assignments done. But for the most part, I think leaning into what it is that fills your cup the most. I think naturally moving into your 20s anyway, everyone goes off and does their own thing. So it can be hard that all your friends are moving away to different cities and they're all going to their university. It's so easy to think, am I doing the right thing? But for me, my social life, I've always had such a passion for traveling and new experiences and hiking and live music. So through my degree apprenticeship, I'm able to fulfill that side of socializing that I love the most. I'm able to go away every 2 months and go on a hike every month and do all these things that I want to do, where if I wasn't a degree apprentice, I probably wouldn't have the ability to do all of this.
And did obviously your brother was the first to kind of go through this process, obviously within your kind of family, and by that time was your parents on board with the idea of doing a degree apprenticeship? Because I know there are parents definitely out there that are maybe misinformed, or they just don't have the knowledge of what a degree apprenticeship is, and they're obviously worried that they're not going to get the full university experience, particularly with the qualification side. But were your parents kind of on board with you from day one in terms of taking that as an option?
Yeah, so I think when it was my brother's turn 2 years prior to me, it was a case of just simply educating all of us. Well, this is how it works. I'm still getting a degree. I'm working full time. I think I struggled to think, well, how does that work? What's the catch? Because that doesn't it seems too good to be true, doesn't it? So you are, where's the catch? So by the time it came to me 2 years later, they were fully on board. They were encouraging me to look down that route, equally to UCAS. And my twin brother now, he does a degree apprenticeship as well. So he applied for Oxford and then took a gap year, and he saw both me and my brother and then followed in our footsteps. So we all kind of learned from each other, and our parents were on board with all of us doing it.
And do you look back at your decision and do you have any regrets with your decision? Do you wish you took another path, or were you definitely on the right path for you?
Not at all. I think at the time I was so stressed, thinking there are so many different pathways you could go down. Every single university, every single apprenticeship. How am I possibly going to know that this is the one? This is the one that's the best for me. But now looking back, it's perfect. The workplace ticks all the requirements that I had. The university ticks all the requirements that I had. Still be able to have the social life and do all the things that I want to do. I'm so grateful that it's worked out the way that it has.
And do you work full time in the office with JLR, or do you work remotely? Like, what's your kind of split there?
It's always been hybrid, but each team has been different. So my team at the minute, I go in every Wednesday. My last team was once a fortnight. Other teams have been twice a week. So it's always quite flexible. And I think with apprentices as well, we get a lot more accommodations. If I've got an exam coming up or an assignment, I can work from home that week, make it easier to switch from working to university in the evening and things like that.
And what's your kind of preference with that? Obviously, there's so many mixed opinions on working in the office, working at home, particularly I think when you're studying as well. Obviously, it's nice to have that flexibility to study at home and maybe in your own time, but what's your kind of personal preference been?
I'll always prefer hybrid. I think maybe my opinion will be different as an apprentice, because I just think time's so precious and you want to make the most of when you get to study, when you get to do work. Working from home is such a game changer, because the travel time saved and not having to get ready and travel into the office. I can log off at 5 and switch straight into uni work. It takes 30 seconds to switch rather than an hour to come home.
Yeah.
But I do really see the benefit of going into the office, just seeing all the friendly faces, getting to know people, especially when I move teams every 6 months. I don't think it'd be right to just work from home the full time. Getting to meet the team in person, it really does make a difference and make you feel more comfortable and more part of the team.
And does starting with a large cohort, you think, help you kind of, obviously from the social point of view, obviously making friends within the organization, but also from an academic perspective, if you were ever kind of working on a project at the same time, or obviously doing similar work at uni, did that kind of help you day to day with the study side?
Yeah, massively. And it was another thing that I kind of didn't think about prior to coming into the apprenticeship. I kind of assumed it was just me and I'm joining the apprenticeship. And I got told there was 2 of us starting at the same day, so I thought there was 3 of us. But there was 3 apprentices in my team, and then about 20 something graduates as well. So I think having that support system from people that have just graduated uni as well was quite nice. But my whole apprenticeship cohort, there's 38 of us in my year, split across all different teams, all different functions and different sites of the business. So yeah, it makes a big difference when you've got different assignments and when you've got group assignments and you can just meet each other in the office and have a chat about it and things. The support system has worked out really well. And we also have a buddy system, so you get buddied up with apprentices in the year above. So I've got 2 buddies below me in the second year and first year, and I think having someone that has been in your position and then that you can pass that forward is such a well organized structure that they can implement.
Yeah, super helpful, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I want to touch upon data analytics as a whole, because I think, I mean, we spoke about it briefly earlier in the episode, but I think for those who are maybe more non-technical minded, what is data analytics? What does it involve? And I guess what are the potential pathways, not only at JLR, if you're a young person considering JLR as an apprenticeship, but also other organizations that offer similar programs? Like, what is it, and what is it about data analytics that you're interested in and you can see yourself kind of doing longer term?
Right, so when I first joined, it was defined to me as storytelling with data. So the ability to be given, for example, a big Excel file, and it's got all these rows and all these columns, and you look at that and it's just numbers and letters and it doesn't really mean too much. But being able to get that, clean it up, put it into a software, make some visualizations, really get your head around the data and analyze it, and it literally gives you insights and tells you exactly what's going on. I think why I like it is I've always been very logical, methodical, I just see the facts and see things how they are, and to have it laid out that plainly and simply, and then you to be the one that can analyze that and give the insights. That's what I find really rewarding. But to give a more example, I feel sometimes I think that doesn't really tell you too much. A project that I worked on was to do with prices of vehicles, so analysing the different prices of different models sold across different countries. So to get all that data, put it all, I mean, you're talking millions and millions of rows, put this all together and see what story is this telling me. Is there certain countries that are more, certain models that are more, like me to be the one to get that insight and then translate that into recommendations and things to go and tell stakeholders. A, the responsibility I really like, but B, just being trusted with, I've turned this into this, I think is pretty cool. But then I also have the second side of working with people data. So I am the data manager for one of our diversity and inclusion networks, to get into work with the data of our employees and analyse that about ethnicity and gender and all these different diversity factors. Have been really interesting to get the numbers, and it tells a story about our company and what our company looks like.
No, that's an amazing insight, and I think that's going to be really, really useful for any parents, carers listening to that and looking at a data analyst role and thinking, what on earth does that mean?
Yeah.
One thing that we always love to touch upon, and you've been an ambassador for a good few months now with NGTU, so we always like to ask our ambassadors kind of their experience so far on the program, how that's helped them, not only for their personal brand, but also kind of day to day. What does the NGTU program mean to you? How has that helped you with your apprenticeship?
I think it's quite full circle for me, because it was one of the websites that I used myself when I was looking for degree apprenticeships. So when I saw about the ambassador program, it's only fair to give back. I think I'm very big on helping on people that have helped me and being able to help others with the questions that I couldn't answer myself. For example, like, what is data analytics? I had to take a bit of a gamble of, I think it's maths based, but let's go and have a look. I think the ambassador program is really good because I see it as two different sides. You've got people that are currently apprentices that are sharing details of their life, their experience, their degree apprenticeship. What's a data analyst? What's a civil engineer? You can go on to Not Going to Uni's social media and their website and get a real life insight into all of these roles. But then there's the second side, which is interview tips, assessment centre tips. How do you know this is for you? And so helping people that are already students at the minute bridge that gap to get to the apprenticeships. And then once you are an apprentice, this is the reality of what it looks like. For me, it's really helped because I have my own social media page with a similar motivation of helping people see, what is my job, what do I actually do, is this the sort of thing for you? So I think it helps kind of spread that to a larger audience and get to just share information, share content, and just help more people have more open transparency about degree apprenticeships and different job roles.
Amazing, thank you, Erin. And does your employer like you get involved with the NGTU stuff? Like, are they quite supportive of that?
Yeah, they're really supportive of that. Really good timing actually, because I've just started to collaborate with the Jaguar Land Rover Instagram page for National Apprenticeship Week, and that's because they've seen my content for Not Going to Uni, my own social media channels and things. So yeah, I think I've had a lot more opportunities because my work has been out there. So I've done a couple of blogs for Not Going to Uni, quite a few Instagram reels that have gone on my social media channels and theirs. So yeah, I think just promoting that side of it, showing that I've got the confidence and I'm able to go and I'm happy to share my story and share advice to help people in the position that I was in 3 years ago.
No, hats off to you, Erin. You're juggling a lot of hats there, and I think love the piece on obviously giving back to other people going through the process. And obviously there's more and more information out there than ever around these programs, and obviously advice on different social media platforms, but obviously I don't think anything can take away from having a one-to-one conversation with someone about their journey and providing kind of some real insights to that. So thank you. To round off today's episode then, I guess I want to touch upon what the future looks like for Erin. What does it look like after you finish your apprenticeship? Like, have you kind of got that mapped out yet, or are you kind of taking smaller steps in regards to finishing your apprenticeship and just seeing how it goes? Like, what's your thought process there?
When I came into the apprenticeship and I found out that I was going to be rotating around different teams, I did definitely think it was a case of just waiting until you joined that team, where you would join and you think, this is it, this is the one that I want to come back to, this is the career that I want. But it definitely hasn't worked out like that, but in a positive way. I've loved all the teams that I've been in. They've all been so different, which has made it so harder to realise which one it is that I love the most and which one that I want to do. So at the minute, I want to say in the future that I can look back and think, I gave my 100% to every single team that I was in. I tried to get stuck in and learn as much as I can. And then I've landed with the one that fulfills me the most. Because at the minute, they're all great. I'd be happy to go back into all 5 of the ones that I've been in. But it's more just a case of, which one do I like the most? Which one can I see myself doing? Especially when you're so used to changing teams all the time, having to pick one and stick to that to be my career, I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge. So at the minute, just going around, getting involved as much as I can to say that I have no regrets when it comes to the time that I graduate and I pick which one I want to pursue.
So to end on, what's your one, or if you have more than one, bits of advice for anyone listening that might be obviously, like I said, a parent, a carer, someone who is in sixth form, literally applying for apprenticeships as we speak, considering alternatives to university, what would be your advice, knowing what you know now, going through that process?
Quite a few, definitely more than one.
Go for
I'd
it.
love to go back and tell myself that all the hard work was worth it. I always tried hard at school and I don't regret that at all. But I think sometimes it's very easy to have that tunnel vision for this exam and this assignment and this piece of homework. But I think now being able to zoom out and have that perspective to see the bigger picture, that school was such a helpful stepping stone to get me into the career that I am now. Like, I'm so grateful for my school and all the opportunities that they gave me there, head girl and debating teams and things like that, that helped me build my self-confidence and my technical skills. But I also think as well that you don't need to know everything. Sometimes I would go down a rabbit hole of looking into degree apprenticeships and think they're all so clever and they know all these different things, and I don't know any of this. I just know what I've been taught for my A-level exams. You don't have to know everything. I really did think I had to show up on day one and know everything about being a data analyst. You learn it when you're there, and they do not expect you to know that. So I really hope that takes the pressure off anyone watching this, because that was definitely the position that I was in, thinking, oh, well, I'm great at my A-levels, but I don't have experience in the working world or this or that. And I think as well that it's okay not to know anything. Shifting your perspective. I know through my experience of rotating around 5 different teams, I used to find it so intimidating at the start. Going into a team, I don't know anything, and I am probably the least experienced person in this room. Whereas now, I've just joined this team 4 weeks ago, and I find that exciting instead of scary. I don't know anything about this team, but ask me in 6 months, and I'm going to know so much more. So that knowledge that actually, if I don't know anything in this room and everyone else does, then this is the room I'm supposed to be in, because I can grow from all these people, learn from these people, and just take in as much information as I can, shifting it to that this is the period for learning and for growing, and it's okay not to know anything. I think that's definitely helped take a massive weight off my shoulder and help me enjoy it so much more.
Be a sponge and absorb everything.
Yes, that's the quote.
Erin, thank you so much for coming on the NGTU podcast today. We've really enjoyed having you, and I think your insights to your apprenticeship, to JLR, and just as a whole, in terms of your journey, has been really helpful. So thank you so much again for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to check out the full series on your chosen streaming platform. You can also head over to the Not Going to Uni website to start your career search today.